I wanted to do something very special for the teardown that fell between Christmas and New Year's. I wanted to do something that I have never done before, yet everyone under the sun has been asking me to do since the inception of teardowns on this channel nearly 4 years ago. And I would be lying to you if I said this engine hasn't been kicking around the shop for 4 months now. I've been saving this engine for 4 months for you all because, well, not that they're very hard to find cores, but they're really expensive. They are really expensive. Not 3 digits, they're 4 digits in price. And when I pay 4 digits for them from the place that actually has them, I get them bare. There's nothing on them. That is a huge risk when you don't get a lot of parts on the outside to then get not a lot of parts on the inside because it's blown up really bad. Which is why it took so long to get one that was complete, that was reasonably priced. But one day, I was perusing Facebook Marketplace. It's my guilty pleasure, one of many. And I found this. A 6.7 liter Powerstroke. And look how complete it is. And I got a story with it. And look at all the parts it's got with it. This was a deal. I just realized that you guys read the title and you already knew what this was. It doesn't matter. I wanted to pull the tarp off of it like I was revealing a Pontiac Aztek. Probably not that way. This is a 6.7 liter Powerstroke out of a 2011 Ford F-250 Super Duty. And it's got 160,000 miles on it. Now, I bought this from a local guy for $1,000 the way you see it. I think that I can reclaim that off of the parts that I can see on it. I hope I can reclaim that. Now, he told me that it does not rotate all the way and that there were sparkles in the oil and sparkles in the coolant. There's coolant sparkles. That'll be a first for this channel if that actually reigns true. But he bought this truck from Copart and they told him that it ran and drove and it didn't run and drive. So we're going to tear this thing all the way down and find out what is actually wrong with this thing. And what does it take to rip something like this apart? The 6.7 liter Ford Powerstroke came out for the 2011 model year to replace the very much unloved 6.4 liter Powerstroke that was only made for 3 years. These engines are still in production. This is some 14 years later. They must really like these engines. In fact, most people that own these trucks really like them. Obviously, like everything, people will break everything. They broke this one, apparently. We're going to find out what happened with this. Now, these engines produce 400 horsepower and 800 foot-pounds of torque, and that's when they're stock. Imagine how they drive when they're tuned. Imagine how they drive when they're tuned, EPA, man. They are worth... I'm going to be careful here. Regardless, these engines seem to be pretty reliable. They are very expensive used. At the same time, there's a ton of these trucks out there, which is why there's always going to be demand. The first thing I'd like to do is substantiate the claims that it is bad. We can't pull spark plugs. It doesn't have any. So we're going to try to turn it over. Okay. Oh boy, this is kind of not in here very well. I think it's locked up, guys. I think he was right. It's bad. The very first thing we're going to do is pull the intake off of it. A lot of bolts. Oh, I got to deal with the dipstick tube already? Oh no, it's fine. I'm not ready for that. As bolts go flying. Now we have some EGR pipes to remove. Next, we'll remove this manifold. Get the coupler loose. Oh, let's get this out of the way. It's already pretty loose. Not quite sure how these work yet. This is the first one I've encountered. Oh, okay. That wasn't too bad. Oh, there's another clamp down here for the inlet on the turbocharger. And that make the difference. Oh yeah. Okay, that's off. Oh, that's messy. Turbo doesn't feel that great. One thing I did want to show was the amount of ick inside here. Is this normal? Or is this too much? I mean, is normal too much? What do you guys think? Now we're going to work on this EGR pipe and then the EGR cooler. Trying to be nice to this thing. This monstrosity is the EGR cooler, and it's held on with a lot of bolts. So it looks like I need to take that fitting off. This should be easy, right? Oh, it was. I'm also saving all the hardware from this thing in case anybody wants that. Let's see if this just comes up. Did I miss something, or is it on dowels? Oh, we have a harness thing here. And the EGR cooler is off. Now the up pipes, I think these are called up pipes, they look pretty rust free, but we're still going to spray some penetrator on them because we don't want to break anything. These clamps off first. So tell me, guys that work on this all the time, Aaron, Anthony, Bearded Vortec, has somebody been in here? Does this look like it's original? And am I going to break these? Please don't break. Woo! All right, 3 for 3. That is awesome. Is that normal? I don't know. Well, I forgot to press play, guys, but these came right off. They came right off. No fuss, no fighting, a little bit of prying. This has been, I don't want to jinx myself, one of the easiest diesels to work on so far. Now I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to clear the harness off of this side of the engine. Got some zip ties to snip. Actually, you know what? I think these just come right out. Yeah, that's what I should have done the whole time. Well, it looks like the harness goes down behind this. We'll deal with that in a minute. We're going to work on the other side of the engine first. The next thing I'm going to work on is the PCV or CCV, the crankcase, the oil separator, whatever you want to call this. This is actually a filter that a lot of people get rid of. Apparently, this is a big cause for oil leaks on these, or the later ones are worse, the newer, older ones are better. I'm not quite sure. Just what I've heard. I'm going to start zipping some bolts out here. And it looks like one of the bolts right here is blocked by this fuel rail. That's genius. This is just a fuel line, not a rail. I'm not quite sure how this comes out. I think I need a tool for this. Or not. Oh, diesel. Ooh, that has a red hue to it. What diesel fuel would be red? Diesel fuel's not red. No one would do that. It's red. 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 I think this just pops up at this point. I think I've got all the necessary things off. Oh, we're puking oil. Oh, look at that. I better get some pig mat. Just kind of soak this up best we can. All right, now we've got a filter, fuel filter to take care of. Oh, that's definitely red diesel. Tisk tisk. Uncle Sam's gonna get mad about that. We're just gonna pour this out in here. Strawberry diesel fuel. Now we're gonna take a minute and strip some stuff off the front of the engine. Will you shh? Oh boy, that could have been bad. Next, we're going to remove the secondary water pump. Yeah, this has two of them. So this thing looks pretty good. There's no signs that it's leaking. It looks really like a nice part.
Eric, that's not scrap. You should sell that.
What do you mean that's worth money? We're going to continue on this harness. Oh, broke that one. Didn't want to do that. Don't use blue on your connectors. See if we can get this battery harness off the engine here. Does that help? It's more loose, but there's another cable that goes that way. That didn't really help yet. We're getting close on this harness. Oh, wait. And by close, I mean it's off. Cool. Now we're going to work on the passenger side, the right bank. Here we're going to get the fuel rail off, the fuel lines off, and then we'll pull the injectors. Now we'll unbolt the injectors. I'm not sure how hard these are going to be to come out. Now the next step is to pop the injectors out, and this is I'll show there's lots of videos on how to do this. But the one that I watched to figure this out, because anytime I do something for the first time, I try to watch videos on how stuff comes apart, so that I look like I have some idea of what I'm talking about. So, this is from the Flying Wrenches YouTube channel. Not gonna say I know the guy, but I watched the video. Look at that, it works great. And there is one injector. We're going to do that for the remaining 7, once we get to the other side anyway. Keep these in order. That one's not so happy. We'll skip it. So we've got one that's fighting us. I have bigger hammers. I also don't want to break it. Thread this through there. No, but I got an idea. Let's use it. Nope, I need a different one. I sure hope this doesn't break my screwdriver here. Let's get the big hammer. In fact, I'm sure it didn't move. Well, this isn't working too good. We're using my new hammer, which you guys sent me. Thank you very much. But there was nothing wrong with my old hammer. Well, it's doing a number on that thing. Let's use a different one and ruin a different one here. Oh, I think we got somewhere with it. It's still not loose. Let me see if I can get a wrench on that and maybe I can work it back and forth. All right, so it's 14 millimeter. Why do they get so stuck? Oh, what happened here? It moved a second ago. Oh, wow. It is very stuck. I wonder if it's related to whatever happened to this thing. I don't think it would be. Let's try some dumb stuff. Oh, dumb stuff for the win. It got me farther. What if we try 2 of these things? I think I can do it from this side. Famous last words. I've moved it up probably an inch, inch and a half. Can't tell if I'm moving still or not. I think that moved it. We're definitely moving in the right direction. That worked wonderful. Oh, we're moving. We definitely moved at least a little bit. Oh, there is hope. Hope is on the horizon. I mean, we have really come out. Let's get a bigger socket. This is exactly what I get for saying things are going pretty smooth and this is easy. This is what I get. I shouldn't have said a single thing. We're out. Oh, wow. That is terrible looking. Well, it is extremely apparent which one of these fought us. These all just boop, popped right out, but this one, look at that. That looks like combustion gases have made it past the end here, which is bad. That's real ungood. But why? What are we going to find as we tear this thing apart? Now I'm going to go Christmas ham on the fuel lines. We've got a bunch of these to get out of the way. Oh, there's a clip on that. I have no idea where that went. I assume it just fell. It's fine. Just don't look at it. Oh, look at that beautiful diesel. It's not red. You're just imagining things. We seem to have some things in the way. We're going to get this coolant pipe off and then we'll deal with this. Easy peasy. Now the driver's side rail. Will any of these injectors fight me? That's not a good sign. Think happy thoughts. Go to your happy place. It's gonna come right out. Yeah. Ah, yes. It was an isolated case. Acute injector stucco. Now we can peel off the left-hand valve cover, intake manifold. Yes, those are one and the same. I think I got them all. This may start leaking profusely, or not at all. Milky. Uh-oh. I see parts that aren't supposed to be there. Well, what do you make of that? And there's some chunky stuff in there. I hope you guys weren't hungry. The question is, what is this? Should I touch it? Should It's water. That doesn't go there. So that's a problem. The chunky stuff. Let's see if I can figure out a way to suspend this. It's just, it's kind of like emulsified metal grease. That's not what you want to find in here. We're going to find some damage in this thing, I think. Aside from that, the rest of this looks pretty decent. I don't see anything broken. Of course, every time I edit one of these videos, I see something while I'm editing that I didn't see while I was filming. But I don't see anything torn up here. On to the right side, or passenger side. So much of the same on this cylinder head. There's a bunch of goo, still water, yuck. But there's some science experiments going on in here. And then the injector that really fought us, look at that. Is that a sign of things that we're going to find inside? Again, I don't see any torn up valve train. Nothing looks out of place. Let's keep going. Coolant crossover is next. Did I miss any? It's good old blue over here. I'm relatively sure I got them all. I did. Now we'll pull the vacuum pump off the timing cover. Is it really the timing cover? Front cover. All right, I think that's all of them. Does this come off pretty easy? Oh yeah, cake. It is a timing cover. Now we're going to work on the injection pump, which is a CP4, which a lot of people have a lot of things to say about it, and very few things are good. Now we can buzz off the nut on the injection pump. Let's see, will this come out pretty easy? I think it will, but I'm probably going to have to use the old air buzzer hammer. Let's just give it a little brap, just a little bzz, a little more. Oop, showers. And the injection pump is off, pull the gear out. Since I know you guys are going to ask, we are going to take this apart to see if there's a glitter party inside. So that side looks pretty good in there. Let's take the metering valve off. I wanted to pull one of these out, and we'll pull that off. The screen is clean. So this was not a failure. I'm going to put this back together. I don't know that this has any value as a as a used pump. People don't put these back in, do they? Now it's time to start unbolting the turbo. Hopefully this comes off without a hitch. Is that it? I think that's it. Turbo is off. Well, the turbo is it's ugly. Look at all the corrosion in there. It's got a fair bit of shaft play. That is more than you'd like to see. This is not a good turbo. Nope, it's bad. Next, I'm going to unbolt the heat shields from the exhaust manifolds. I'm not sure if I can pull the heads with the manifolds, which is why we're going to take the heat shield off to find out. Broken. Broken. Let's see, do we need to take that off? We're going to zip that off real quick and see what it looks like. Oh yeah, that's got to come off. Absolutely must be removed. Get the other exhaust manifold off. Broken. Now we can start taking the valve train apart. We'll get this oil line out first. All right, now we can pull the push rods out. So the valve train all looks pretty good. I don't see any damage to any of the cups. All the push rods are straight. I didn't expect to find anything. Well, I didn't have any expectations really. But I don't see any issues with any of these parts. And now it is time to pull the cylinder head. Let's get this gasket up. And we have a few small bolts at the top. We'll get those out first, zip those out with the impact. Will you just... There. And then we've got a few head bolts. I think that's all the small ones. Let's crack some head bolts loose. I'm kind of nervous to see how tight these are going to be. Or if I'm going to knock the engine over. Not too bad. Wow, they are tight. I'm going to get the bigger bar. This is going to wear me out. This should help me here. It is definitely easier with more leverage. Okay, they're all cracked loose, and I'm going to go take a nap. The other question is, will my impact get these out? Oh, I'd say the head is loose. All right, this is getting out of hand. Let's lift the head. Hopefully I don't spill a bunch of ick on me. Oh, boy. So the head gasket doesn't really look too bad. The rest of this, oh man, this is going to be an effort. So lots of rust. This must have sucked in water or been from a flood truck. This is going to come apart terribly. It's going to be a really bad time. That is some really deep pitting. Rust aside, we must conduct our scientific experiment. Like a rock. Wait a minute. This isn't a Chevy. The cylinder head looks bad. We've got one valve hanging open. It's not right. It could be rust, could be junk, could be rust junk. But what's interesting is it looks like right around there, it kind of looks like a crack, doesn't it? Kind of close to where that glow plug comes in. We'll have to clean that up a little bit, see what we can see there. I'm not impressed so far with the condition of this cylinder head. It's pretty gnarly. Let's start in on the other head. Get the oil line off. Can I have you? Thank you. Much like the other side, I don't see any damage here. Everything looks pretty good. It's dirty, but it doesn't look bent or broken. Let's zip the small head bolts out. Time to crack the left-hand head bolts loose. Hopefully this doesn't roll over. Whoa there. Did I do these already? I feel like I missed a few. Some of those weren't that tight. Ooh, that one's tight. Let's revisit that. What did I miss here? All right, we're just going to check a few of these here. Yeah, I think that was it. Let's keep 2 bolts here. Need those later. Oh, the smell. Blech. All right, what's behind head number 2? Oh, well, that's not good either. Head gasket. I don't see any issues there. It's decent. Well, that's probably the nicest bore there is. Otherwise, this is super rusty and corroded. This is going to be a long day. Time for science round 2. I mean, it passed, but I don't like it. And this cylinder head looks better, only because it has one decent looking combustion chamber. The rest of this, look at all this corrosion. It cleans up. I'm not going to say these heads are junk because we don't know that. We also don't know if they're cracked or not. We'll get them kind of cleaned up in where I suspect there may be some issues so we can see if they're cracked before the end of the video. All right, now we're going to pick this thing out of its crate so we can get the rear cover off and I can get it mounted to my stand, or we're going to try to get it mounted to my stand. We'll see how this goes. Got a big old chain on it. Oh, look at that. That works. Start zipping some bolts out. It looks like I might need to take this. Oh boy, this might be a little more challenging than I initially thought, because it looks like the bolts go from the upper pan into this rear plate, which means I may have to mount it to a stand as it sits and then dismount it. Why you gotta be so complicated? Well, I've got the short block mounted on the stand. We're gonna get the rest of this engine harness or battery harness off. All right, battery harness is off. At this point, let's remove the main water pump. I think the rest of those are 8 millimeters. I think I have 2 more 10s left. Is that it? I think that's it. I want to be really careful with this water pump. I don't want to scratch it. Did I get all the bolts out? Yeah, right? Let's get blue. I think blue's better at this. Sure acting like I missed a bolt. I meant to do that. It's all planned. Oh, I just hope I didn't hurt the water pump. Let's look at this thing. It's a two-headed. Seems pretty nice, spins nice. There's no real degradation anywhere in here. I don't think the fall hurt this thing whatsoever. Let's get the harmonic balancer off. Do I need a puller for this? No, maybe. I don't think I need a puller. So it does not seem to need a puller, but I am going to put one bolt, a few threads in, just in case this gets sideways. I'm not launching a heavy harmonic balancer across the concrete floor. Let's get another pry bar. See if I can just... Yeah, not bad. Now we're going to roll this thing over so we can pull the upper and lower oil pan. I have no idea how this is going to go, other than hopefully not too messy. Ah, dipstick tube. Oh, lifter's fallen. That was unplanned. We'll get these lifters out and looked at. We realized those would just come careening out of the block. Boy, this might have been a mistake. I'm not sure yet. Oh. More lifters. I think we're doing okay. Made a little mess on the floor, but we've got pig mat to clean that up. Let's see if we can't get these out. All right, let's get this lower pan off, which appears to have already been off. Is that it? Oh yeah, that's it. Uh-oh. There's some debris in here. So the screen is not clean. What is that though? I don't think that's metal. Maybe it is. So the inside of the pan, it's kind of hard to see what this all is. There's definitely some oil deposits and some chunky stuff. I don't know what the chunky stuff is. It's hard to say, but this is a plastic pan, and it is going into the trash. Normally, oil pans get recycled, but the plastic stuff, straight to trash. Trash. So here are the lifters, which actually each one of these has a pair of little bitty lifters in there. The rollers all feel nice. There's only one problem. I got one of these that didn't come out, and it seems to be stuck. And that is on the very front, on the passenger side. We have to remove this hose before we can get all the bolts out of the pan. Yeah, that's a nice looking hose. Perfect. Now I have a whole bunch of 10mm headed bolts to zip out. I think that's it. Let me get all the bolts out of the way. Hopefully this just pops right up. I think we're ready to pull the lower pan, or upper pan rather. Ah, that gasket. Let's take a look in here. Uh-oh. That's not right. That's not right. I only see one thing that's not right, but it's very not right. Let me show you. So overall, this looks pretty decent in here. I said overall, though, and not completely. So far, so good. And there's the problem. You guys see it? You see what happened here? You see the clearance between the connecting rod and the crankshaft is in the piston is nothing. It's one unit has fused. And that rod is a noodle. Of all the rods to bend, this is not what I would consider to be what I would expect to happen. This is not, I did not expect this, but that is probably what is wrong with this engine. At least one of the things. It's hard to see if there's any other damage in this engine, but we know we got one noodle rod. It is now time to zip all the bolts out of the front timing cover. Surely there's some more of them. There's not? Yes, there is. Oh, I heard it pop. I think that's it. I think we're ready to be off with the front cover. Ooh. Right in the gut. I think we're caught on this front seal here. I really don't want to launch this thing across the floor. Man, I got it like a ½ inch off, and it's stuck. We're going to try to get this seal out. I think that's what's hanging us up here. Let me go get a better method. This will work, right? If this doesn't work, well, we're going to have to try some different stuff, but I think it's going to work. Well, we got it moving. We're just going to have to walk it back and forth, I think. Just time. I mean, I think we're making progress. Ah, see if we can pry that seal out of there now. I think we're making headway. Look at that. Was that all it is going to take? Doubt. All right, we're a lot more loosey-goosey than we were. Oh yeah, we're making it. We're making it. We're doing the things. Yeah. Well, I am extremely lucky here because this engine is locked up. It's rusted up. But yet, where it stopped, I have access to get both of the bolts that hold the cam retention plate in. So I should be able to slide the cam out of this thing. That makes me real happy. After we get the cam out, we're going to unbolt the rods and pistons. We're going to do our best to get those out. I don't think we're going to be able to get very many of them out. And normally we would zap the oil pump apart, but I'm not going to do that because the front cover has some value. And I don't see any signs of oiling failure whatsoever in here, so I don't think there's going to be any damage in there. We're going to focus on the root cause of the damage on this engine. Oh yeah, this is going to come out just like a piece of butter. Trying to be very careful. And the cam is out. So the camshaft looks great. I don't see any signs of lifter failure here. Little bit of damage to that journal, but for the most part, this is a very usable piece. Not sure what it's worth. This is the first 6-7 we've ever had. We're going to turn this back over, and we're going to spray some
penetrator
in the cylinders in an attempt to break them free. Try to make this a little bit easier to come apart. Because that rust is pretty thick. So we're going to need all the help we can get. All right, let's let her sit for a little bit. Now we're going to give ourselves a fighting chance here. And I was asked if this tears up the block. Well, it knocks most of the rust down, which is the goal. The rust did way more damage than this can. Now, this one's got really light rust, so I'm not even going to bother with that. These two. It's definitely knocking that rust down. All right, we're going to start unbolting the rod caps. Those are very tight. Now this one's already at the top of the bore, so I have hope. No. That would have been too easy. Let's try some things here. I think I moved it like a 1/16 of an inch. My hammer is breaking. Look at that. The weld is breaking. It's not good. Now I've got a shop towel over the fractured rod end, so hopefully it provides enough protection. Are we moving? I feel like we're moving. Oh yeah, we're moving. I'm going to rotate this just a little bit more so that I don't fire this thing at the ground. It could still happen, it's just less likely. We're almost to the first ring. At the first ring. Still gonna mar up the rod ends. I am regretting letting this thing sit in my shop for this long. All right, now we've got the whole width of the ring out. I'm gonna unbolt the bent rod. I'm going to see if that makes the crank turn over, because if I can get the crank to drive these out, it'll be much better. I don't want to screw the end of the bad rod up. There goes a bearing shell. All right, so the bearing is past the journal on the crank. We're going to see if we can rotate. Oh man, I got to hit the piston up a little. And we're going to put a couple bolts in the crank and see if we can turn the crank over. So if we can move the crank, we're going to be in a much better position. I'm going to try a little bar here. No. It's going to bend the bolts. Yeah, that is not going to be a good idea. It was an idea. Now we're just going to beat the bonkers out of this bent rod since it's already bad. We're not going to make it worse. It's moving. How far are we from the top? Oh, we have a few miles to go. We're coming out. That is at least one. Let's see if that looks kind of funky coming out here. Oh yeah. It's one of them right angle cylinders. Let's see if we can get some more of these out. I'm going to try this one here. That worked. Let's see if we can't mitigate some damage. I've moved this at least half of an inch. And where I come from, half an inch is that's a lot. Oh, I've reached the end of the hammer. The rods and pistons are not going to survive this ordeal. Compliments of rust and corrosion. We have crowned. How far out are we? We're past the first ring. I think we're at the second ring now. We are past the second ring. I think we're close to the oil rings now. Oh yeah, we're at the wrist pin, and it still doesn't want to just slide out. Come on, just fall out. Oh, that is so wedged in there, it's not even funny. Bingo! All right, we're not very far at all. Let's try to get another one out. We're gonna try the bar thing again. We're gonna keep trying because the more I can move if I can start moving the crank, we're gonna be in a much better spot. I think that's a no. That's a bad sound. My hammer is done, guys. Look at that. I don't think I can fix this. Engine is really doing stuff to me here. Oh! Yeah. That moved it. I moved the crank. Oh, I think I can pull this one out. It's a boy. I'm going to try one more time to turn the crank a little bit further. See if we can cut through some of this rust. I think I moved it just a little. It's unhappy though, and I'm going to get hurt if I keep trying. Prefer not for that to happen. I think I can't get the front two out because of the position of the crankshaft. That is unfortunate. Let's see if we can get this one unbolted, and that's the only other one I can get to. All right, well, let's give this the old elementary try here. All right, so that's out of the way now. All right, let's see if we can turn this thing over a little bit. Look at that. All right, so now I think we can knock some more of these out. I guess what I could do too, and it might make more sense, if I take this thing off the stand the way it sits, and then I can get the crank out of the way, then all of the rods and pistons. We're going to get it off the stand. I'm probably going to put it back on that wood crate. We'll zip the main caps out, pull the crankshaft out, and we'll hopefully be able to get the rest of the rods and pistons out. At this point, we just need to get the main caps out and the block, but we'll get the block out of this and put on that crate. All right, let's get this rear cover off. Now I can zip all the mains, pull the mains, get the crank. Oh, wow. That doesn't like that. All right, I have no idea how these main caps are going to come out. Hopefully well. Now, I don't know if this is going to be heavy or not. It looks heavy, but it's no Cummins crankshaft, I can tell you that. Thank goodness. Not too bad. Let's get to tapping. Now I am going to completely forgo the idea that any of these rods and pistons will be sellable or reusable, I should say. These are all going to be desk ornaments. So if you guys want one of these, it's going to have a few of my marks on it. It's kind of like a signature. We have reached the deck. This is way easier with no crankshaft. Oh, we're cooking now. Yeah, we are past the top. We are crowning. Success! Can I get it out of the hole though? Yes. Now I hope these will be a little bit easier because I've worked on these already. A winner every time. One left, guys. We're done. We're done. We're done. No more disassembly. All right. Well, that wore me out. Let's take a look at the rod bearings. The upper shell, which is pretty typical, has some wear. You can see it's through the first layer in the same spot in most of these shells. I may have a couple of them spun around backwards like that one. But either way, I don't see anything terrible. There's no signs of an oiling failure. It's really hard to say how well this thing was taken care of, but I don't see any signs of neglect in the bearing shells. And the rods and pistons, which is where we ran into an issue, these were terrible to get out. Absolutely terrible. My back may never recover from this. But hey, I didn't give up. We got it done. And none of these are usable anymore because of the methods that I had to get them out. I mean, a few of these might be okay. I wouldn't use any of these over. Yuck. I wouldn't use any of these over again. They do make nice paperweights or book weights. They're pretty heavy. This one actually shed a couple parts of the oil control ring. And I'm not quite sure if that's how I got them out, the method in which. Now this one I didn't really beat on that hard to get out, so I really don't know what to tell you there. We can skip a couple of these and that's why the engine failed. So, okay, that's not true. That's the symptom of why the engine failed. There's quite a bit of damage to the bottom of the piston. That's from the crankshaft. That's not from me hammering on it. That's from the crankshaft. And the rod. This is one of the strongest rods of any engine I've torn down, and look how it's bent. It's incredible. It's like a 105-degree angle. That is pretty incredible to bend a rod in one of these things. And the main shells, there is a little bit of damage there. Now, I don't know how much of that damage could have been caused by me turning this thing over dry, trying to get this thing to rotate it. It did not want to cut through the rust. We've had more luck out of smaller engines, but big engines where multiple cylinders are rusted up, they can really fight you like this one did. And the crankshaft, I think the crankshaft came out all right. I think I would polish it. I didn't see any damage from me hammering rods and pistons out, which was a concern. I know some of you are probably cringing at what I was doing to get this stuff apart, but I didn't see any major damage done to the crank. They're pretty resilient to that kind of thing, and I was using the brass drift. Either way, the biggest issue is not the journals when you have a crankshaft like this. The biggest issue is the amount of force it took to bend that rod can twist the crank. So this crank might be junk. I think if it's valuable enough, I'll take it to machine shop for them to spin it to see if it's bent. and if it's bent, it's gone. I know sometimes you can straighten them, but usually crankshafts have to be worth, you know, $700 or $800 plus, or even much more than that to make that kind of work make sense. So hopefully the crank is okay, but I can't tell you for sure because it could absolutely be twisted based on the bent rod we saw here today. So we're going to look at the block from the bottom and look at the damage done at the bottom of that bore. Now I don't know if that's going to matter or not, and I don't know what 6-7 parts are worth. I mean, I do have the main caps. The bores are going to need a lot of machine work to get through all of the rust. There were some under the piston, some above the piston. This was a really rough one to tear down. It's still got a lifter in there, or at least one of the rollers. Water does not do engines any good. It actually cracked. Yeah, that's cracked. I think this one's going in the scrap bin, guys. Hydrolock can exist from multiple different scenarios. Injectors can hang open, flood a cylinder and bend a rod. Oil could enter the combustion chamber and bend a rod. It could also be coolant. If it sits, coolant comes into the cylinder, and then when you go to crank it, it bends the rod. Or some people like to drive it through water, and I think that's what happened here. The petroleum-based ways that this could be hydrolocked would not have resulted in the sheer volume of water and rust and corrosion inside of this engine. Antifreeze would, but it would have to be a mammoth crack to do that kind of damage. I mean, this was running when it locked up. This wasn't one of those where you turn the key and it bent the rod. Like I can't imagine a scenario where that much coolant could enter the combustion chamber. I didn't see any signs that this engine was really overheated. We checked the heads. The heads aren't perfect, but they're also not perfect because of the sheer volume of corrosion. And that was in multiple different cylinders, not just one, which is exactly why, unless some other source of coolant intrusion exists, maybe the intercooler, this thing probably drove through water. And it doesn't matter how hard you try. You can have the most powerful engine in the world. If you get water in your engine and you try to power through it, bad things can happen. We've seen some much worsely blown up, that's not a word, we've seen engines that were blown up much worse than this one. The big problem here is that it sat after this happened. Had this been caught right after it happened, this would have come apart way easier. But I am whooped. I am absolutely whooped. I can't wait to lay down in bed. Hopefully my back forgives me for this endeavor, but I'm glad that it wasn't a good engine that was just rusted up, because that's not fun. Rust is bad enough to deal with. As long as I have some carnage to go with it, I'm usually not complaining, but I hope the next several engines aren't rusted up like this, because I could use a little breather from the rust. I think the last couple of engines have had rusty cylinders. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this teardown. This was definitely not a failure related to neglect, possibly abuse. The rest of this engine looked relatively okay. I couldn't tell you why that one injector hung up, but I'm sure somebody will in the comments. The red diesel fuel makes me laugh. It's not supposed to be red. That's the dyed tax-free stuff, just so everybody's on the same page. Anyway, this was really easy to work on until it wasn't. This is the first 6-7 I've torn down, and you have to keep in mind that my basis for comparison is tearing down engines out of the vehicle. I'm not in a service situation. I'm not repairing these vehicles. I don't work on them when the engine's in the vehicle for the most part. I'm just tearing them all down outside of the vehicle. And I can say that this is easier to work on than the Duramax. This is harder to work on than a Cummins, in my opinion. Most things are. And it is probably the easiest Powerstroke that I've torn down. I didn't hate it. It was not terrible. I like a lot of things about the design, and I think a lot of people really like these engines, although they are still very expensive, but you'd be hard-pressed to find any diesel engine from that era that's cheap, because there's so many of them out there, and a lot of them are in work trucks, and people do bad things to work trucks. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this teardown. If you'd like to buy any parts out of this engine or anything else I've torn down in the past, or if you want to buy parts out of this 144,000 mile LQ4 powered Yukon Denali, I'm going to leave our email in the video description. You can also go to importapart.com. I've been uploading our parts cars every single week. We've been getting lots of neat stuff in. As always, I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one.